Hello and welcome to Paul on Politics, our regular review of the week's political news live on KMTV. Coming up on tonight's show, as the number of UK coronavirus deaths passes the 100,000 mark, was the Prime Minister right when he said everything had been done to tackle the flu pandemic?
Well, I'm afraid, Paul, on many levels, I'm going to have to disagree with that. I feel that there's been somewhat a failure of government to some extent to really properly get a grip of this. And we've seen that repeatedly through failures to lock down, failures to secure the airports, failure to use the track and trace app that was on offer from the European Union, failure to manage PPE.
Well, hold on, that's a long list. I mean, they've done pretty well on the virus front, haven't they?
You've asked the question, could the government have done more? It's 100,000 deaths. It's one of the worst death rates in the entire world. So it's really serious that we've got to this level. We did have Cygnus run through in 2016, so we did have some idea, and there was some forward planning for this. And obviously, I have to tell you, my heart goes out to everybody that has lost somebody, and we've still got a way to go. And I just want you to know that my father-in-law went into hospital with a swollen finger, and he was dead by Christmas Eve day with COVID.
Right.
And this is the problem, that we haven't had effective testing and tracing in place, that steps haven't been taken as well as they should have been taken. And the research shows that 450 people per day were contracting COVID in our hospitals. We know that people were in hospitals with COVID and sent out into care homes. The government has misstepped after misstep after misstep, and that's why we're in this mess that we're in now. And it's a huge death toll, and my heart goes out to everybody that's lost somebody and everybody that's shielding and is lonely and worried about the future. And these are the obstacles we have to face now.
The government says now's not the time to start an inquiry into the issue. Would you like to see one set up sooner rather than later?
Yes, I would. What I would like to see, I agree with Paul. I don't think this is the time to do it right now. I think there needs to be, a clear commitment now from government that this will happen and that the scope of that public inquiry will take place. I mean, I think what we really need to focus on now is absolutely securing our public health message, absolutely supporting those people that need help, and making sure that people don't start to rely on the vaccine as the be-all and end-all, because it isn't. We still need to have that public health message in place.
Okay, well, we might discuss that when we've heard about the first mass vaccination centre officially opening this week, with hundreds finally getting their coronavirus jab. The site in Folkestone will be able to vaccinate 3,000 people each day once fully operational. It comes as more sites are set to be opened across Kent. Yes, Karen, perhaps you want to make a comment about the fact that we've got lots of centres and now we're hearing about problems with shortages of vaccination.
Well, we're hearing about potential shortages of vaccination. I mean, more vaccinations will be on stream. I mean, more companies are working towards that aim. I mean, there is clearly, looking towards the future, we're looking at how different sorts of vaccines could be administered and whether or not some of those can be done via pill or nasal spray. So clearly, the scientists working at this and the regulators are going at full pelt to get this situation resolved. But we do need to look at where else we can organise these vaccine centres. And there have been some glitches locally around me in Thanet, in Sandwich and Deal in particular, at getting vaccines to the first target group. That's been very slow to happen. Now, when that happens, obviously people get very kind of upset about it and concerned. And if you haven't heard, you wonder if you're going to hear. I'm hearing different things from up and down the country. That people are being asked now in their 60s in some places. So that's good news. We need to be doing this and we need to be very positive about it. But I'll say again, Paul, we need to strengthen our public health message and we need to support those workers while they're self-isolating. That's absolutely critical now.
Now, schools in Kent and the rest of England could be reopened on the 8th of March, according to the Prime Minister. After facing increased pressure to confirm a date, Boris Johnson says we could be 6 weeks away, dependent on vaccination targets. Karen, Constantine, there is a feeling, isn't there, in some areas that the impact of these prolonged closures is going to have much more of an impact on disadvantaged children and the families than others. Is that something you accept, and what needs to be done to address that?
Yes, I think children are having a different experience. Children in better off families have got access to the internet and to devices, etc., and they've maybe got their own rooms and they're maybe more comfortable and their parents aren't worried about giving them food. We've always had those issues in Thanet, and in one of my local schools, I know that 60% of the students don't have access to kit, technological kit. So obviously they're going to fall behind. But I mean, regardless of those sort of inequalities, I mean, all children are going to be affected by this. Many children are going to have poorer feelings of well-being around this, and there is going to be impact on children's mental health. So I think the questions have to be, and I have to say, I absolutely take my hat off to teachers and people helping teachers out, the midday supervisors and all of those, because they are doing a tremendous job under incredibly difficult circumstances, as are, it has to be said, all of those people that are homeschooling young people, which isn't, speaking as a parent and a grandmother, I know isn't easy at all. But I think we really need to be thinking about how do we prevent this stop-start approach going forward? Is that something that we can achieve? And there's a huge amount of pressure now to vaccinate teachers, and I have to say, I think that makes perfectly good sense if the other key groups are also vaccinated, so people with comorbidities and those in the very elderly groups. And then I would like to see teachers vaccinated so that we can get our young people back to school. And I want to know what are going to be the plans for helping our young people to catch up.
Okay, well, we've got to move on because there's another issue this week around lorry parks. Tensions are running high in Ashford as lorries keep blocking a residential street near the new lorry park. The HGVs, following their sat-nav, have been repeatedly ending up and down a narrow road and getting stuck, much to the anger of residents. They say it won't be long until there's serious damage. Karen, I take it you don't particularly welcome the idea that Manston might be used as a spillover lorry park.
It's there and ready, isn't it, to be used? But I think what we are seeing in some of the places is at a micro level a kind of reflection of what's happening at a macro level, which is a kind of chaos that's taking place with regard to exports. I mean, you had the Institute of Directors, the CBI, the Federation of Small Business, all coming out saying that there were obstacles now to export, and that the government's own information was absolutely incoherent. So this is one reason we're getting backlogs. And add to that you've got the Department for Transport, business advisors, advising UK companies to set up subsidiaries in the European Union so that they can continue to trade freely.
Well, look, can I just interrupt to ask you one particular point? Because I know when you were last on the programme, you forecast 5 to 6 months of traffic Armageddon along the M20. It's not happened, has it?
I don't think I did predict 5 to 6. You might produce the film. Look, I mean, I would prefer, like the vast majority of people, I would prefer us to move forward, with frictionless trade as smoothly as possible, with as little damage to the economy as possible, especially in these circumstances. I take no pleasure in things going wrong for people. But I think, as I said, I think this is at a micro level, it's a reflection of what's happening at macro, which is a lot of confusion. And we've not yet seen how we're going to manage going forward. And I'm not going to crow about that because I want things to go as smoothly as possible. But this, people will need to understand that this is what they voted for, this kind of chaos, price hikes, etc. This is the cross in the box. This is the result. Now,
finally, Tunbridge over Tenerife, the Isle of Sheppey over Ibiza, and Medway over Mykonos. Lots more people are booking their summer holidays in this country as interest, the ability to travel abroad, is impacting on people's plans. So Kent looks like it might, after a long time in the doldrums caused by the lockdown, the tourist sector might get some business coming its way. So the obvious question to ask is this lockdown actually playing a positive role in boosting tourism in Kent, Karen?
I hope so. I mean, provided COVID willing, provided people are able to travel and able to book into our local B&Bs, Airbnbs, our fantastic Albion House Hotel up on the cliff with its fantastic views, then we would welcome them. We have marvellous beaches. You can hire a bike from Harbour Bikes shop and you can cycle along the coast to your heart's content. I can't think of a better place to be. Okay. So, and I hope that does bring the boost to the shops and the restaurants, etc. I really do.
That's all we've got time for on today's show. Thanks to our guests for joining us in the studio, although virtually. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, you can catch up on all the latest political news in Kent by logging on to kentonline.co.uk or following me on Twitter @PaulOnPolitics. Thanks again for watching.